David.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our One World Zohar, our energy connection with the Zohar. We are in volume 18. The portion is Chukat. Again, we're still out of sync. That's what they're reading in Israel today, and the center follows that. And in the rest of the world, they're not reading Chukat. They're reading Korach, which we read last week. But we're connected to the energy of Chukat today. Let's begin by inviting in for assistance and guidance and insights the lineage of the Kabbalists. Let's invite in the Rav and Karen and Michael, Rabbi Shlag, Rabbi Brandwein, the Ariya Kodesh, Ramchal, Rabbi Tarfon, Rabbi Mzulai, Rabbi Menachem Mendel, Rabbi Tepsk, Rabbi Kolon, Shapia Pia Setzna, Rabbi Shem Tov, Rabbi Shimon Merachai, and all the students, Rabbi Mordechai of Chernobyl, One Soul with Joseph the Righteous, Yosef Tzaddik, in Shechem. Today is also the anniversary of elevation of Rabbi Yaakov's ben Meir. The son, where is it? Ben Meir. Oh, it is the Rabbeinu Tam. Well, that's interesting. So today is the Rabbeinu Tam's elevation, day of elevation anniversary. I'll speak about him in a second. And then there's also the anniversary elevation of Rabbi Pinchas Levi Horowitz, a student of the Magid of Mezrich. Those of us who done energy tours in Poland and Ukraine, had visited the burial spot of the Magid of Mez, which is a super, super powerful place with a bunch of other righteous souls buried with him. But going back to Rabbi Yaakov, son of Meir, the Rabbeinu Tam, he was Rashi, the commentator. He was his grandson. And he is a huge Kabbalist, a huge righteous soul, and responsible for a lot of things that are followed today that depart from what is the established practices of the vast majority of people, but a lot of like Hasidim follow Rabbeinu Tam. For example, Shabbat ends 72 minutes after three stars come out after sunset. On Saturday night, it's as per Rabbeinu Tam, and some people, so they keep Shabbat going longer to stretch out that energy available to them. At the end of Shabbat, they hold by Rabbeinu Tam, and his ending of Shabbat is later. Also, there's actually two different types of tefillin. There's Rashi tefillin, where the headpiece follows the Yud Kei Vav Kei, and then there's the Rabbeinu Tam tefillin, in which instead of being Yud Kei Vav Kei, it's Yud Kei Kei Vav, and that's a much more it's a different connection, and that's something that Hasidim do to this day, and we do at the center. Many people, not everybody. Okay, with that, enough by way of background. As we connect to these verses, we're connecting to the flawless universe, the level of being now, where all kinds of fulfillment is available. So let's begin by connecting to the energy of healing. So I have my list of people that I am praying for their healing, sending them energy of healing. So whoever you know who needs healing, please, now's a great time to set your consciousness in connecting to the energy of healing and setting them energy of healing. Let's also connect to those souls that are in the first 12 months of leaving the physical realm and send them comfort and elevation on their journey. I have a list for that also that I'm looking at right now. Yehuda ben Abraham, Ganessa bat Zeb, Wendy bat Stanford, Sheila bat Philip, yes, and Yael ben bat Yaakov. Let's also connect to the energy of Havat Chinam, unconditional love, treating everyone in the world with human decency. Let's also connect to the energy of ending the wars and conflicts in our world. We've had a little bit of a respite with that. We'll see if it continues. It's gotten a little choppy. But also, so we want to send an energy of connecting to that, ending those wars and conflicts, and also protection for all those innocents that are in harm's way. Let's also connect to the energy of protection from evil eye and evil speech, and also removal of chaos and negativity from our world. Okay, verse 18. The name of this is called the red heifer. I mean, I don't know. Unless you're on the Kabbalistic path, it's likely that you have never been connected consciously to what a red heifer is. But that's where we're going to start today. Verse 18. Daber el bnei Yisrael yichu elecha para. Hai para ledachyuta ka'aita, ledaka lemisave, para de kabilat min smala. Uman hu smala, sure. Madot omer, ufne shor mehasmo, adumas sumaka kebabrida. Dirtiv keshoshana ben hacholchim, aduma gizrat dina. Okay, Ivana, do you have an introduction there that you can read from?
The synopsis, right?
Yes, that's it.
Quite a long one. Do I have a
Okay,
correction?
so before you do that, so there
Mhm.
are a bunch of what I would say are rituals around what we can do with the red heifer, which is what we're going to dive into, but it's not about the rituals. It's about the internal energy. And as we've spoken about, and all the teachers speak about all the time, there are different windows of opportunity that we have to connect to special energy. Shabbat tonight and tomorrow is one. The different holidays are another, and different types of energy are available at different windows in time. There's also spaces where there's different energy that's available. Like, Jerusalem, the Temple Mount, which for us as Kabbalists is the most powerful space in the physical plane. There's also different fruits and vegetables that at different times open up channels for us for energy of healing and energy of immortality. And I'm thinking right now about just matzah on Pesach, especially the first night. I mean, it's a wafer any other time of the year, a stale wafer at that. But on Pesach, it's an opportunity for us to destroy our ego and make a very strong soul connection. And there actually we have a bunch of rules about different animals that we eat that help us purify our soul, or some that actually add negativity to our soul. But in this case, it's about the energy of the red heifer. And what is that? Let's continue.
We learn that the offering of a cow is to purify the clean, and that red means a sentence of law.
Okay, so what took place when the temple stood was there were sacrifices. Were we just picking on different animals? No. The energy available through that sacrifice purged our souls of negative energy. I mean, really? Yes. I mean, again, this is us hacking into reality. This is us going deeper than the, at best, 1% illusion that I see. And so I don't want to get into the whole debate about whether this is animal cruelty or not, but what our teachers tell us is that, hang on one second, is that those animals would line up to do the sacrifice because their souls knew they were assisting the children of Israel in perfecting our reality. And so, souls come back for all different kinds of purposes. And the souls of the sacrifices were there to assist us in doing our work in perfecting creation. And, like a sacrifice of birds was an elevation sacrifice. Every time Aaron gave sacrifices, he would sacrifice a calf to correct for the sin of the golden calf that he participated in, where his consciousness dropped. He went to a low space, and that created all kinds of negativity, not the least of which was we had immortality at Mount Sinai. We had reclaimed immortality at Mount Sinai, and we lost it with the sin of the golden calf. So Aaron never gives sacrifices without first taking care of his own negativity. But then there's this special category of red heifer. Now, you don't see red heifers. It's like a unicorn, only it's a red heifer. It's like they're rare, incredibly rare. But for us, the red, as the synopsis is pointing out, and as the Zohar is pointing out, the red is a judgment. So the first opportunity, well, actually, the cow itself is to purify weakness. Purify the unclean. So the first opportunity we get is purifying any kind of negative energy that's connecting to our soul, that's in the way. And the red of the heifer is a judgment of laws. So this also gives us the opportunity to remove any judgments that are chasing us. So we have the opportunity to remove both the negativity. We have the opportunity to remove both negativity that's blocking, that's standing in the way of our soul, and also to remove judgments. Where do judgments come from? Well, it's things that we do that open up judgment. Maybe it's something we did in a prior life, and in this life we came back to remove that judgment. And maybe something we did in this life, where just karmically the consequences of what we did are chasing us. So we have the opportunity here right off the bat to remove negativity that is attached to us, and also to remove judgments, to sweeten judgments. That's a big part of what takes place on Rosh Hashanah, is the removal of judgments. The first day is the hard, severe judgments. The second day is the softer judgments. That's why we need 2 days. So for us, though, we're connecting to that right now, just by virtue of the Zohar. Let's continue.
The cow must be without defect to indicate soft judgment, and without blemish, since all blemishes are healed through the illumination of wisdom.
Sounds a little like we have some kind of bias against defective cows or cows with blemishes. I mean, is that right? Why should we treat cows with blemishes or defects differently than any other cow? Because it's always, again, about the internal energy. And those defects, those blemishes are indicative of something going on at an internal energy level, at the soul level of that cow. And so if they are already have blockages, they're not going to be able to assist us in removing ours. So the cows have to be without defects, without blemishes. I'll say that, and I'm not making this up. There was a red heifer born in northern Israel in the past, I think in the past week. And it made the internet, and maybe it's not on your feed, but it was on mine. And it's happened before. Actually, this particular farmer has had a red heifer born before. But when they came to check out the red heifer, they noticed he wasn't completely red. He had some black hair also, and that disqualified him from being a red heifer. But this one they checked out. It's legit. It's a fully red-haired heifer. And I'm just going to say, well, what's the big deal? Well, it's an indication that we're in the days of Messiah. That's what the Kabbalists teach. So no matter what you think is going on in the world, on your news feed, I'm pretty sure I know what's going on in all of our news feeds, but you want to see the red heifer, because that is otherworldly. Literally, it's otherworldly. Let's continue.
Rabbi Elazar explains why the offering was taken to the adjutant to Aaron and not directly to the high priest, saying that this would be improper because Aaron approaches from the holy side, not the pure side.
Okay, so usually the sacrifices were given to Aaron as the high priest, and he would take care of it. You had something you needed to atone for, some kind of negativity you needed to remove, some kind of blockage you created, something you did that you want to remove the consequences of, the judgment of. So you make a sacrifice. Today, we give money to charity, is one way we do it. The prayers that we say are also connecting us to removing negativity and judgment. At this time, that's not what they were doing, but it was kind of charity. They would take money or property and exchange it for the particular animal or other item like wheat, or I know there were other things that were given in sacrifices. And they'd take money, they'd travel to Jerusalem. There were stalls right there outside of the Holy Temple, and they would buy the animals they needed for the particular correction they needed to make. I seem to recall that doves were a really big one. Doves or pigeons? I know I'm a little foggy on it, but okay, so it may be the same. But they used to raise those in Israel so people could give those sacrifices, and it's like that sounds great. It's like almost like a fable, though. Did they really? With thousands of years ago, I crawled through the caves where they raised those pigeons. They're available. They were underground, and there was a hole at the top, and there was netting. So at night they fly through that hole and they could fly around in the netting. And during the day in the heat, they'd go back in the ground. And there were specific, like carved into the walls of these caves, spots for each pigeon to have their own little privacy. I mean, so the evidence is there in numerous places. Anyhow, not that we need that, but it's nice to know. So they, in the case of this particular sacrifice of the red heifer, it wouldn't be brought to Aaron, the high priest. It would be brought to his assistant, the assistant to the high priest. But why couldn't they give it? And so what the Zohar is teaching us is that there's a difference where Aaron stood in terms of his level of connection, that he was connected to the holy side, not the pure side. And you're like, what's the difference? And that's a great question. What's the difference between what's holy and what's pure? So pure at one level is just without any negativity. Holiness is something much more elevated. And so Aaron himself was at a much more elevated basis. That's why there was only one high priest. Curious footnote to this. This is exactly what Korach was trying to do last week. He wanted the high priesthood for himself. He didn't understand why it was given to Aaron. Again, another opportunity for us to understand that it's about the internal energy. All priests to this day, Kohens, you see someone with the last name K-O-H-N or C-O-H-E-N or other names, they're likely Kohens, directly descended from Aaron. And it's like, well, how do we know that? Can they just have taken the name as possible? But as I mentioned, there's actually a genetic test. It's a genetic marker that is used to identify people who we actually know what that is. So again, we live in a world that everything looks like it's chaotic, and the deeper reality is that energy is there and energy is available and connections are available, but they come from a fragmented reality. In our reality, the energy is fragmented. So it's available at certain times, it's available at certain places, it's available with certain fruits, plant life, and different animals. It's fragmented. And without the 5 books of Moses, we wouldn't have the ability to decode that reality. And without the Zohar, we wouldn't have the ability to decode that reality. And that's what we're connecting to here. So, yeah, I know what you see. I see the same thing. So this, again, these teachings in the Zohar itself is an opportunity to connect to the soul. And why do I say soul? Because your soul sees these differences. Your soul sees that deeper reality. It's like, well, then why, if it's my soul, why can't I see it? Because there's just too much space and blockages in the way. And by connecting to the Zohar, we're connecting to soul and removing those blockages. Let's continue.
We hear about the 7 washings, the 7 years of Shemitah, and the 7 Sfirot.
Okay, so the significance of 7, once again, it's a connection to the 6 Sfirot of Zeir Anpin, Chesed, Gevurot, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, the 7th being Malchut. So when we see the number 7, we understand we're connecting to the unity of lower world, Malchut, and upper world, represented by Zeir Anpin. All the energy from the upper realm flowing to us through Zeir Anpin. So 7 is always about the unity of our world and the upper world, which gives us the ability to connect to that flawless universe. So the 7 washings removes the blockages and negativity. The 7 years of Shemitah is this teaching that if you owned land and you were farming, you would farm it for 6 years. In the 7th year, you would leave the land fallow. And so, like, what were you supposed to do to eat if you're not planting? So it was an opportunity to grow in the certainty that it's the Creator providing anyhow. And so that was a practice that still actually takes place now in Israel. Farmers leave their land fallow. And of course, the seven Sefirot. Let's continue.
Rabbi Elazar says that throwing cedar wood on the burnt ashes
Cedar.
weakens
Cedar. It's
cedar.
cedar. Yeah, the wood. Yes,
Sorry.
that's okay.
Sorry, guys, I'm doing half mobile, half.
You're doing great.
So,
Ivana, you're doing great.
thanks. So, cedar wood on the burnt ashes weakens the energy of the unclean aspect. So the people become cleansed.
So what they used to do was they would give this red heifer to the assistant to the high priest. He would, through the process, sacrifice it. They would have what remains were ashes. They would throw cedar wood on the ashes. That would all burn up. They would take those ashes, add them to water, and the priest would sprinkle it on the people. That's how we achieve that removal of negativity.
So, David, when you hear the word cedars, I think of cedars of Lebanon. So, are they specific? Well, no, are they specific types of trees so that not just any tree has that property?
It's a great question, and it's beyond my understanding of plant life. But the cedars of Lebanon, one of the things that we learned was the cedars of Lebanon were planted by somebody. I don't recall who it was, but they were used in the construction of the Holy Temple. So there are very special properties that cedar has. I can't remember who was telling me recently that they burned cedar wood just to get that energy. It may have been Nancy, I don't know, to get that energy in at home. But anyhow, so I don't know if it was specifically the cedars of Lebanon. It's possible that it was, but cedar itself, again, everything in the world has served a specific purpose. Some things serve a much higher elevation of purpose, aligning with the work that we need to do to fix the world, to complete creation, to perfect our reality. Okay, let's continue.
We hear about the water of sprinkling that is for purification when the world dwells in judgment. And Rabbi Elazar concludes by saying that defilement and purification are the most important rules of the Torah.
Okay, so that's fascinating, that last teaching, that what makes them so important, because it's a limited ability that we have to do the work we need to do without these tools. You'd never come up with this on your own unless you're incredibly elevated soul. You would never come up with this on your own. That's how deeply hidden these tools, the impact that these tools have is. Okay, let's continue with the English for verse 18.
Okay, so I switched to 18, right?
Yes.
Okay. Speak to the children of Israel that they bring you a red heifer. This cow is for the purpose of cleansing, to purify the unclean, which is malchut, that receives from the left.
Okay, so the verse about the red heifer, this is not something that someone came up with. It's literally in the verses of the Torah. It's in this week's portion. And what the Zohar is explaining it to us is the purpose of this activity is to purify the unclean. So to remove our negativity. It's not like taking a shower. That's not what this is about. This is about spiritual purification. This is about removing our negativity. Where does that come from? You're not going to get negativity in the upper realm. It comes from this realm of Malchut. And because in this realm of Malchut, we have the left column of judgment. And so that's typically where we run into problems. That's where our reactivity is. Let's continue.
Who is on that left? It is the ox that is Gavura in Zer Anpin, as it says, the face of the ox from the left side.
And that's from Ezekiel, otherwise known as Yechezkel. Now, when you read the face of the actual side, that bring anything up for anybody? Any other thing we've ever studied? Peter?
Well, I actually am thinking when they talked about the face of God, which is not where you're going on this one, right? Because there's also with Adam and Eve, right? So which one are you going to?
Well, I'm thinking about that may be two. I'm thinking about the vision of Ezekiel, which is the Haftorah that we read on Shavuot, which when we did the book of coming up, Pinchas, when we did the book of Pinchas, there's an extensive discussion of Ezekiel's vision of the chariot. The chariot had four faces, and one of them was the ox, and that's associated with the left. So the Zohar here, so really, and again, just to briefly talk about what was Ezekiel's vision, he saw a chariot, and it had faces, and it had wheels, and he goes into extreme detail, and it's like bizarre. But it's like so much of what we encounter in our holy writings, he has to use physical items to describe what's going on in the upper realm. We lack the ability to perceive what's going on in the upper realm. We just do. We're limited to the four corners of the earth. We know that it's planet's round, but I'm just saying, we're limited to this reality. We don't have the ability to see that. Do we ever see that? Well, arguably, when you have a dream that's a true dream, you're in the upper realm. That's why you can fly, things can change form, there doesn't need to be any gravity. Crazy things happen in those dreams because it's not bound by physical body consciousness. So the reality is, there are times where we experience glimpses, shards of energy from the upper realm. And the other way we experience it is when we read things in the Zohar. I mean, this is taking place in the upper realm. This is what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, author of the Zohar, was able to channel for us. Energy from the upper realm. And it shows up in ways that don't make sense. The red heifer, let's face it, doesn't make sense. Except when you start to peel back the layers of the onion, you see, well, it's red, and that's left, and that's judgment. And that's what the Zohar is telling us. We are encountering energy 24/7. And we encounter opportunities to elevate our consciousness. And we also encounter opportunities that create reactions in us, which connect us to the left. And it's not so easy to navigate. You're going to get a text, it's going to say something whacked out, and you're going to want to reach back out through the phone and grab someone around the neck, metaphorically. And that's the reactivity that we want to pause around and say, why, not why is this happening to me? How is this happening for me? And if you think being on this path means you're not going to have those experiences, no. It just means you will have more tools to assist with processing and navigating those events, those occurrences. That's why you came here. You mean I came here for that guy to disrespect me in that way? Yes, you actually asked for that. And your soul knows it. It's just us that is challenged in the moment because body consciousness reacts, our ego reacts. How dare they treat me that way? You asked for that reality. It's happening for you. So again, here we are confronted with this energy of left column, reactivity, judgment. I mean, you know, I forget who it was I was hearing was talking about, like, it was one of our teachers who was pretty elevated, and they're like, it may have been Monica. She was saying, like, there's still so, she remembers all the judgments she was making. She's still making judgments. You are making judgments constantly. Constantly. It's like it's so natural, we have no awareness of it. So again, here, another opportunity to grow in our awareness, to take a step back and watch what's happening in your head and see the judgments that we're making. Because those judgments have consequences. And here we have the ability to see those judgments, to remove the negativity, to literally, that's what the red heifer is doing, sweetening those judgments. Okay, let's continue.
Red means red as a rose, as it is written, like the rose among thorns.
Okay, so that's a verse from Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs, written by King Solomon. Plenty of metaphors there. What is the rose among the thorns? Like the thorns is what you get stuck with. The roses are nice. It also, anyhow, that is akin to the children of Israel that is surrounded by all this negativity that we're here to assist in the elevation and removal of. What else is red, by the way? What do we say
Wine.
Kiddush on every Friday night? Wine is red. It has that energy of judgment, which is why Kabbalists, when they open a bottle of wine or they pour themselves a glass, they add a little water because that's chesed. That's the way in which we're creating balance. Let's continue.
Red means a sentence of law, since the laws of the left column are considered red.
Yes. So when you see red, you know there's energy of judgment there. It's a telltale sign. The energy of white is the energy of mercy, of chesed. So right column is white, left column is red. That's the two columns. Mercy on the right, judgment on the left. Also, just an insight into why we keep generally milk and meat separate. Because milk is the energy of mercy and meat is the energy of judgment. You can't get meat without murder. When you milk a cow, you're actually relieving them of the pain that they're in. It's okay. Oh, that's interesting. It's about the internal energy of what's going on. Let's continue with verse 19. Tamima, my tamima, kamada tainenan, shor tam v'shor mu'ad. Shor tam dina rafya, shor mu'ad dina kasha. Of hacha, tamima dina rafya, guvura tata, dahi tamima, guvura ila'al, dahi dina kasha, yad hachazaka takifa.
Without defect, he asks.
Okay, so
in
that first verse that we read, it's like the cow, it has to be without a defect. And what is that? What's that about? Let's continue.
He asks, it is written without defect. What is the meaning? He responds, it is as we were taught about a bull that has not gored and the bull that has gored thrice. Okay,
so straightforward answer about the red heifer with defect? Well, not exactly. How are we going to understand this? Well, it's about understanding the difference between a bull that is gored and a bull that is gored 3 times. Like, again, there must be something much more significant here, because the only way the Zohar can point it out to us is by using an analogy to a bull, and not any bull. Bulls that gore and bulls that don't gore. What do you suppose is the difference between a bull that gores and a bull that is gored 3 times and a bull that is gored never? It's their internal energy. One's a bit more aggressive, significantly more aggressive. It's about the internal energy of that particular soul of that bull. And there are rules that we use to make those distinctions, to help point out to us what exactly is going on, so we can get closer to understanding what that internal energy is. Let's continue.
The bull that has not gored means lacks soft judgment. The bull that has gored thrice is harsh judgment.
Now, do we really need to know that? First of all, do we really need to know that? And the answer is yes. We need to know what kind of internal energy there is. And so if we're giving bulls for sacrifice, we need to know what kind of energy it is that we're dealing with. Same with the defect. So you can tell about the internal energy not only by looking at whether it's a defect or not, which, by the way, for red heifers is an all red hair. It's one black hair. It's excluded. It's not the red heifer we need. And if we need a bull, we need to understand. Now, by the way, the rules of these bulls are actually, the Talmud goes into great detail. I don't see it cited here, but I know that I've seen those portions. Let's continue. So, okay, but for here, like, okay, great. What's the point of this? I mean, when the Torah starts talking about all the sacrifices, what do you do with that? What's the relevance right now? The temple was destroyed 2,000 years ago. We're not making sacrifices. It's not even okay to make sacrifices. So what is the significance? What is the present moment relevance of a discussion of sacrifices at a time where we haven't done those sacrifices for 2,000 years? Because what our teachers tell us is by reading about this, we're accomplishing the same thing. We're accomplishing those sacrifices just by studying and connecting to the Zohar that's connecting us to this energy. So for us, a discussion of the gore of the bull that gores thrice and the bull that doesn't gore, we're removing soft judgments and we're removing hard judgments. So another major opportunity for us. I just want to say, before I finish with English here, that last year, on this portion, when Michael Berg gave his lecture, he talked about one of the most significant aspects of this week's portion is the understanding of life and death. Because the first verse actually connects us to the rules about death. And then the word for life appears numerous times in the reading. Death is an illusion. It's not real. I know that it doesn't necessarily lessen the pain, but ideally it does lessen the suffering that we have when someone we know passes. I mean, I didn't know what was going on, but I realized this morning that I had a dream about someone close to me came to me in a dream last night. I didn't connect it to the energy of this week until right now. But the energy of this week also assists us in seeing that deeper reality, not only in using things that are at our disposal to help elevate our soul and remove blockage and remove negativity, but also helping us see the deeper reality, which is your soul is eternal. Your soul continues on. And that's a big part of the energy available to us this week also. Let's continue.
Here too, the mima means a lax sentence that is lower gwara, meaning malchut, since one that is as such is without defect. Gwara high, that is the gwara in zerpin, in the severe and mighty hand.
Okay, so now we understand where these two energies are coming from. There is the lax gevura, the soft judgments, and that's gevura that's within malchut, because within each of the sfirot are another 10 sfirot. So within malchut, there's chesed, gevura, and tiferet of malchut. And so the softer judgments, the laxer judgments, is the energy within our realm of malchut. The severe judgment is the OG, original gevura, which is actually the sphira that's in Zeran Pin. So why do we need to know this? Because again, it's different energy. It's different levels of severity. And as I pointed out, we have Rosh Hashanah coming up. By the way, registration's open for Rosh Hashanah in New York City. It's not too early to start planning, not too early to make a hotel reservation, not too many air flights. We know exactly when it's going to be, and we know exactly where it's going to be. So it's now our opportunity to save a little bit of resources and expenses and book early. That's my first point. Or make whatever plans you need to. Start making them now. But that first day, you want to be there because it's the assistance of removing energy of harsh judgments, whatever they may be. That's the significance of the first day. And I would still stick around for the second day because there are still soft judgments that are floating around. I want the removal of those too. And so we have the opportunity through this reading to connecting to this purification and removal of judgments, both severe judgments and soft judgments. You have the ability to do this in today's reading, which was a huge opportunity for us. Through the red heifer, we can't make that sacrifice, but we just did. We sacrificed the red heifer. We found the red heifer. We made sure it was okay without defect. We sacrificed it. We took the ashes. We added cedar to those ashes. We took those combined ashes, put them in water, and the priest sprinkled us with it. And I know you're saying, well, I don't think I experienced that. And I'm saying you did experience that. And that assists us in removing the judgments that are out there. And we'll have another opportunity to do that. We always have the opportunity to do that. You read the Zohar anytime, although this week, special energy available to us. And we'll also have the opportunity in Rosh Hashanah, which is just around the corner. Okay, everybody, we're out of time. Ivana, thanks for reading.
Shabbat Shalom.
Love you all.
Pleasure.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
Thank you,
Shalom.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.